Alright, the time is here. I'm finally gonna go get a haircut after living here for about 2 months. This is just long and out of control. I can't even manage it. Even when I slick it back to style it, the sides are too long. It's a mess. So, heading to a new barber today, try it out, see how I like it, and just get a fresh cut because I really need it. Alright, got a fresh cut. Shout out to Gents Barbershop for doing this for me. I was not paid to say that. I paid them to cut my hair. And they did a great job. It was just getting too long. Too hard to maintain. I'm liking how short it is. So today I'm going to talk about something I don't talk about a lot on my channel, and that's writing. So every year since 2013, I have participated in a month-long event known as National Novel Writing Month, or Nanowrimo. This is where you write 50,000 words of a novel in 30 days. Now, for my first 3 years, which were 2013, 2014, and 2015, I finished and accomplished that goal by writing 50,000 words of a novel. However, for the last 2 years, I have fallen short of my goal and have not been able to write 50,000 words. This year, I'm hoping that changes. I'm going to try my best to reach 50,000 words, and I'm feeling very confident about reaching that goal. Why? Because I'm feeling very inspired right now, and I feel very enthusiastic about my writing project, and I haven't felt that way about this novel in a while. Last year, for National Novel Writing Month, instead of working on my epic fantasy series like I usually do, I decided to try something different. I decided to move to a contemporary fantasy with some supernatural and horror influences. And that was because I just wanted to try something new. I was getting bored with my own story because I'd been working on it for so many years. And that novel didn't do well. I didn't win. And I worked on it more in this past year, and I got to a place where I really love that idea, and I am going to return to that contemporary fantasy novel. But this year I am back to that epic fantasy that I worked on in 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. And I feel more inspired about it than I have in a long time. I spent a lot of time over the last 2 months just learning more about my characters, even though I've known them for years and have been writing about them for years. I learned so much more about them in the last 2 months. I understand what some of their goals are and their motives and why they do the things they do, what their backgrounds are. And I just was able to create more well-rounded characters. And in addition to that, I actually have a plot that makes sense, and I have an antagonist that is actually believable and is so many shades of gray that this is going to be great to write. Before, in all the previous drafts of my novel, the antagonist wasn't mentioned much. There wasn't really a reason for this conflict to begin. And even when it did begin, it was just such a good versus evil story, such a black versus white. And to now have an antagonist where there is still an evil force, but you can see all the motives behind it, and you might even be inclined to think that they could be good. I am so excited. I think it's going to end up being like a 200,000 word novel by the time it's done, but I'm hoping to at least get somewhere in November, reach that 50,000 word goal, and have a really good, solid start to that novel. So that's what will be coming on November. National Novel Writing Month is November 1st through 30th. So if you don't see me uploading a ton of videos in November, that's why. I will be busy writing my novels like I do every year. So let me know if you're participating in National Novel Writing Month this year. Let me know down in the comments, and I'll respond. Let me know what your story's about. What is your novel about? You know, how long have you been doing Nanowrimo? Or have you ever done it? Have you never heard of it before and you're interested? Let me know about that down below as well. Because it's such a cool event. This is where I'm going to talk a little bit about my background with writing. So I started writing back in elementary school. I started writing in 4th grade with a short story. It was a class assignment to write a piece of fiction, basically, and some illustrations for it. And I wrote the story about some kids who lived on an island, and they had to save the island. Ended up writing like 6 of these short stories. They were like 2 or 3 pages each. Basically all these forces they had to defeat to protect and save their home. and I would share them with the class, actually. You know, I'd read them aloud to the class, and people seemed to enjoy it, although looking back it was awful, as would be expected from 4th grade writing. But in 5th grade is where it really took off. 4th grade is where I was kind of like, you know, writing's kind of fun, and I'd never thought of it as being fun before. Although I'd always been a reader, so I mean, that shouldn't really come as a surprise that I would enjoy writing that much. But in 5th grade, we had another class project to write a story with a partner. So my friend Nicole and I, we wrote basically this story about a cat, a penguin, and a wolf. And it was something, I don't remember, I don't have it. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but there's something to do with the salmon run. But we had a setting. We had a country, we had a setting, and we had these 3 characters. And we did that short story. I don't even know if it was turned in or if it's just an exercise or whatever, but we had created that. I took that story that 5th grade year and turned it into a 63-page novel. At least I considered it a novel at the time. And it was on wide-ruled paper, handwritten, really big handwriting, so I typed it up yesterday because it's getting hard to read and I want it to always be available for me to read. So I transcribed it, I typed it up, and I want to say it's only 16 pages. But that was my 5th grade novel based on that short story, and I just expanded. It wasn't about a salmon run anymore, it was about this cat, this penguin, and this wolf and their country, and I invented some neighboring kingdoms, and it just expanded to this whole world. How they had to save the day against this evil tiger that was planning to take stuff over with an army. It's a weird story, it doesn't make any sense. Reading through it yesterday, there are parts that there's just no logic. And then in 6th grade, I wrote a sequel to that, 105 pages, and that was on college-ruled paper, still handwritten, a little bit smaller than before. I am still trying to transcribe that, but a few pages are missing, so I'll have to figure that out. But then, in 7th grade, I decided to write a prequel to the one I wrote in 5th grade. And that is where really my Nanowrimo story begins. I wrote that sequel, it ended up being 63 pages, college ruled, and it wasn't finished. I gave up on it. I basically gave up on writing for the rest of 7th grade. Most of 8th grade I had some ideas for a sci-fi novel. In 9th grade I tried to write that sci-fi novel. It never went anywhere. I kind of felt like I had stopped writing and given up on my love for writing. Then in 10th grade, I started high school. I joined the newspaper as a journalist. I fell in love with writing again. I was writing all the time for the newspaper. People were reading my work. While it was different from fiction, it inspired me to start again. So I started looking at some of those sci-fi novels and thinking about them. And I didn't do a ton of writing, fiction writing that year, but it got me back into that mindset of, you know, I can still be an author, or that time, my big dream being a journalist. Then my junior year of high school came, and I decided to do Nanowrimo for the first time. And what story did I choose to do for Nanowrimo? Well, that prequel that I started writing in 7th grade, I took that story concept, the bare bones of that story, the plot, the setting of that story, and I made it my 2013 Nanowrimo novel. Of course, I had to completely redo it. I didn't want it to be about a cat, a wolf, and a penguin. That's kind of childish. So I made it about kingdoms of humans in the medieval times, an epic fantasy. You know, big wars, kings and queens, and all that kind of stuff. You know, just a much more mature angle on that story. And that's what I wrote for 2013. Wrote 50,000 words. I started 3 days late. So if you want to do Nanowrimo, and November has already started, it's not too late. I started on day 3, and ended up finishing 2 days early that year, which was impressive. I don't even know if I can do that now. But I was on a kick. It was like my first attempt at writing fiction in a while of that magnitude. And I wrote 50,000 words. For the 2014 Nanowrimo, I wrote the second half to that novel. I didn't finish it. I wrote another 50,000 words and it still wasn't done. That's how I know that coming back to that novel to rewrite it with all these new plot points and new characters, it was already at 100,000 words unfinished. It's gonna be like 200,000 with all this new stuff and new depth added. So that's what I'm working on this year for Nanowrimo, is going back to that story, that epic fantasy, with all these new ideas I've been formulating over the last few months, which just expands the scope. It is more mature, I think, than ever. I mean, just the shades of gray and the struggles that the characters are going through and their goals, and just really trying to bring the whole world into place. So if you're reading my novel, you can see the whole world, but I want it to feel like the whole world is involved by mentioning other countries and kings and having other characters from other places and other cultures come into play. So you can see that this is a whole living world that I have created. And I'm just so excited to start writing it. I don't know if it'll be any good, but the ideas are there, and I just feel excited, and that's what matters most. I'm having fun, and I can't wait to do it. Okay, I'm back. So I just wanted to show you guys a few things. I don't show stuff from my novel. I'm not good at opening up about it because it's not done. I don't typically share things until I'm proud of it. But this is where the story takes place. This is my map of my world that I made on Photoshop. For years I've hand-drawn it, and I just finally decided to look at my paper maps I've been drawing for years and just take my hand to it on Photoshop, and this is what I came up with. This is the region where the story takes place. It is part of a greater world. I'm sure this will change because in the scope of this novel, there's room to change how the rest of the world looks, but that's the world map that I've created. So this is my climate chart, and I have to figure out, where the mountains come into play, what climates will be like. So that's how serious I'm taking it this time. And then I'm not going to show you all my world building because it's too much and I don't want to give away the story. But like this, for example, that I've written in this old notebook is kind of the creation of my world, some of the histories. I plan to fill this whole notebook here, not with my novel, but just the backstory of my whole world that I created. Things that the characters would know or be taught. So the name of my novel is A Clash of Crimson. That may change. And the series name that I'm going with is The Guardians of Agathor. May change as well. Agathor is the name of the planet. That might change if I come up with something better. I just like that it's short. My working cover art for it, it's nothing special. I did it in Photoshop in just a few minutes. Tracing out a crown and recreating it, and using text effects to make this shiny text. But this is what it looks like. Clash of Crimson. That is basically the idea that I'm going off of for it. And then if you want to see my other novel, which I had mentioned, the one that I wrote last year to kind of take a break from my epic fantasy, which I plan on coming back to this novel. It is also a really cool idea, and I'll probably write it whenever I get stuck on this epic fantasy. I can kind of switch back and forth, hopefully. But there's the cover for that one, which I created, which I'm really proud of. It took me a long time to draw that. It's not perfect though. I'd have to spend some time, like a whole day, actually working on some professional ones. But that's all I had planned for today. It's just this unscripted discussion about National Novel Writing Month and some writing. I didn't go into a lot of detail about a ton of things. I just wanted to kind of build the big picture of what NaNoWriMo is and what I'll be working on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, if you are participating in NaNoWriMo this year, let me know in the comments, or if you want to participate, let me know there too. I can help you guys get signed up and share my username so you can add me as a friend on there, or as a writing buddy. I don't even have any videos planned for the rest of this month, so we'll see what happens. So thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a like, be sure to subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you next time.